to the RedLeafCard, your home for Canadian soccer news and views. My name is Jacob. Today we're going to be talking about the Copa America of 2024 and about Toronto FC's performance in the first leg of the semifinals of the Canadian Championship. And first, here's your fixtures rundown. Vancouver FC has lost to Atletico Ottawa 3-0. Calgary FC lost to York United 2-1. Forge FC defeats Pacific FC 2-1. Toronto FC defeats Philadelphia Union 2-1. Club de Foot Montreal defeats Atlanta United 1-0. And Vancouver Whitecaps defeats St. Louis City SC 4-1. So, breaking news from Toronto FC, as president of the Toronto FC and also for the Toronto Argonauts has resigned from 9 years in as president, and right now has been years of fans being frustrated from Bill Manning of not doing really well as being president for the Toronto FC. And now, lots of fans already praising about that Bill Manning is no longer being with Toronto FC since of the match that happened in the first leg of the Canadian Championship of the semifinals against Forge FC, which final score was 2-1, and that's not a good look for Toronto FC, losing by 1 in the first leg. But in the second leg, it only ends there if Toronto FC can make it to the finals. So this is a big oopsie there for Toronto FC, not doing really well in the first leg. As some say, there has been a lot of heat coming in from Toronto FC's players, Cozy Thompson, who had a little bit bad things about the Canadian Premier League coming in, and it's not doing really well. So he just basically said that the Canadian Premier League is not a first team league, as you would say, not a professional league or even a first division league for Canada. So a lot of words he said, but he does give credit for Forge FC of winning the first leg, but a lot of fans are now going after Cozy Thompson for his choice of words about the Canadian Premier League. So it just basically went viral. Lots of TFC fans did not like his words. Also, lots of people would say, this is basically, you would say, no longer going to be part of the Toronto FC team in the upcoming in the end of the season, and sooner or later probably might go somewhere else. And yeah, some players from Toronto FC would say negative things about Canada soccer, trying to improve of getting, for example, a professional league or other development academy teams. That's something you would say you have to use your words wisely being a Canadian player. And I know some fans would say, well, he's trying to trash talk that there's always been rivals with Hamilton and Toronto. For example, you would say the Ticats or the Argonauts, for example. And it always goes back and forth. The 905 Derby, or you would say the QEW Derby, for example. And as noticed, Toronto FC, for example, has the 401 Derby against Club de Foot Montreal and Toronto FC. So lots of people would say, let's try to trash talk or give some rough up things to be more physical during the match. And that's something we always see in these things. So I think that what Toronto FC did against Forge FC in the first leg is kind of, you would say, instant regret of basically insulting the Canadian Premier League, that it doesn't have any potential in against Major League Soccer teams. But they don't look in the past. For example, Vancouver Whitecaps even losing multiple times to Canadian Premier League and getting eliminated. As you noticed, Calgary FC in 2019. You've seen Pacific FC. You would see multiple times. Club de Foot Montreal just actually lost to Forge FC this year. And now Forge FC is versus Toronto FC. That is something to respond and saying that, hey, Canadian Premier League is actually growing competitive league out there. And Forge FC is now going out there saying, yeah, we want to be the first Canadian Premier League team to win the Canadian Championship. And now we're seeing that actually happen. But now you're looking at Pacific FC versus Vancouver Whitecaps in the semifinals. That's something also to look at. Can we see another upset? That is a rivalry. And I always say this. The semifinals might be one of the best to look at because you have Pacific FC, who actually beat the Vancouver Whitecaps, and Vancouver Whitecaps don't want to see that actually happening again. And you have Forge FC trying to get redemption back. And Toronto FC definitely has a great rivalry with Hamilton because Torontonians know that they don't even like any Hamilton fans out there. But you would always say, let's see what happens in the second leg for the Canadian Championship. So let's see how it ends and see who makes it into the finals. So, which I go back with Bill Manning, why fans are always saying, well, losing to a Canadian Premier League team and you realize Bill Manning resigning and fans had enough. You look at the history of Bill Manning where he has signed one of the favorite general managers, Bespachenko, who signed great players. You have Javinko, you had Victor Vasquez, you had all these players who are recognized to winning the MLS Cup and the best team of all time in 2017. The first ever Major League Soccer team to win the treble. And Bill Manning was involved with that. And a lot of fans always say, why would you massively hate this guy after that? And I would say, it doesn't really matter to all these fans. They should be focusing on how the performance is. But Bill Manning out there always goes out there saying, we have to focus the structure of the team. And if anyone is interested, that's why we always see that we always have one of the staff leaving. We always have to find coaches who are interested. And as noticed, lots of people are going to go up and say, how much is the contract worth? And they would be interested in it. But the matter of fact is that everyone knew about Greg Vanney. He was really good. But all these fans say about Greg Vanney being one of the best coaches out there. Now they say, well, we wanted Greg Vanney back, but he had a great offer with another team. Now he had Tim Bespachenko. Why did he leave? Because he wanted to manage his hometown, which gave him an offer. So that's the reason why he left. So now all these TFC fans are just out there saying, well, we have nobody. We have absolutely no one. We just want the people that we loved. And I just don't see that actually happening. I don't see the whole structure coming back because the matter of fact is you're not going to get them back And you look at Beshpachenko, he's already won an MLS Cup with the Columbus Crew. You have probably all these other coaches actually doing well in the other teams. So, but it's always trying to be in everyone's smart mind of who to get and how their performance went. And you look at the Canadian Premier League, you have probably one of the best coaches, like for example, right now York United, who has Benjamin Mora, who just signed with York United. He's now doing well. But you have Carlos Gonzalez, who's doing really well with Atletico Ottawa. And you have Bobby Smarionis. He was one of the list for being the head coach for Toronto FC. And Toronto FC just thinks it's not really that option. So they picked John Herdman. What is John Herdman doing right now? He's not doing well. He's now there, upset of his performance. And when you see that happening of him losing it, that he's not doing his performance with Toronto FC, it looks like that. It's his whole career is done. But I'm not there to just say, well, you have to fire this guy or that. But if that's the option that all these fans are always saying, well, we have to keep John Herdman because he's one of the greatest coaches. He did really well with the national team all the way to the World Cup. And you still say he has a legacy in being there. And you're still supporting him to say, shouldn't be fired for that. Shouldn't be fired for losing a massive loss. And he didn't make it to the next round. If John Herdman lost to Forge FC in the semifinals for the Canadian Championship, you should not be defending this person at all. And you'll be thinking that, oh, the whole staff should be to blame on, but you're going to be defending John Herdman. It's kind of this shield you're giving, that he gives so much pride for Canada, and he gets this whole privilege. That's something to not look at. So I think there's a problem with that, Toronto FC. That the fans focus on something else. That, well, if the players don't show their performance with Toronto FC, that we're not going to like you and we want you to get transferred to some other team. But if there's a big name coach or a big name player, we're gonna basically defend you in our heart that we are the main focus on the team. So, like for example, Bernardeschi, Lorenzo Insigne, all these players, you would say they need to stay. That's something I really have to say, that the supporter groups are bringing in some problems to the whole franchise of Toronto FC, and it has to stop. That's the point here. It's time for the supporter groups to just admit, if that team, Toronto FC, continues on losing games, if they lose to Forge FC, they have to realize to themselves, if you're losing all day, can't make a full winning streak, it's time to look for the future of the team. And that's the point. That's the point here. I know some fans might be mad about it, but now you're seeing fans right now in Canada being mad about Copa America. Not just fans in general, you have the whole national team being pissed off of how the performance in Copa America, which USA hosted, the whole match didn't really succeed. The whole thing was a disaster. And I'm not going to be sometimes blaming on the whole national teams out there. You had Uruguay versus Colombia, which ended up into a brawl of one of the Uruguayan players having one of their wives being in there with the whole family. Even one of the players had their daughter at the match, and one of the Colombian fans threw beverages at them. And that started the whole brawl. It's like Malice in the Palace when a fan threw a beverage at Ron Artest, or you would say Meta World Peace. And now you see Uruguayan players now just going to the bleachers out there, starting a fight. This whole thing was out of line. That everyone should not be involved. And I still would say, seeing how the Colombian soccer fans are, they should be at fault. When you see the whole matches, how Colombia is, it's full of hooliganism, and everyone knows this. When it gets so popular of their sport, it turns into hooliganism, and it's not just everyone always saying, well, you can't control what they are. They can't control themselves because, well, the sport runs into them. It's one of the most popular sports in South America. And if security can't control it, if none of the whole people can't control what the fans are, that's also a problem. And you look at, for example, the finals, Argentina versus Colombia, was a disaster. It had to be delayed, which every Colombian fan and Argentinian fans just basically ran through the gates, and it's not what everyone wanted to watch. There was also fans who didn't have tickets to go see the Copa America match. And all these days, all these countless times, you are going to see these things. You're going to see this probably in the World Cup. You're going to probably see that in any Continental Cup. But everyone always says, well, you're not going to see this in Canada or USA or Mexico. Now you're seeing that when trending was Mexico and Canada. They say that get rid of USA hosting the World Cup of 2026. And I'm like, no. I'm not going to say that USA should be eliminated of hosting the World Cup just because of their security. It's basically everybody to blame. The Federation of South America had to be to blame also. I just don't like this. Even you would say CONMEBOL's also to blame, and I would also blame CONCACAF to be involved with this. This is not acceptable for Copa America. Copa America, in my opinion, has to be controlled better. For the people who's controlling Copa America, have to be more smart with everybody. And we're not seeing that. We're not seeing from the fans. We're not seeing any of the players who are being involved telling them to be more careful, being more calm. And this is something everybody, we're not controlling the fans. But we're seeing it massively every single time, not controlled. And we've seen Canada, we've seen all these countries seeing it in open hand. So Canada coming in fourth place, that's one of the, in my opinion, the best performance that Canada did, coming in fourth spot in their debut for Copa America. But still, you had the head coach who didn't like the Copa America. He had some problems with it, and he didn't like it. But I would say this about Copa America. I would say congrats to Argentina for winning the Copa America, a three-peat And that match, Lionel Messi had to get off, who brutally injured his leg. And final score was 1-0 in extra time. So you look at Canada, who making into the third place spot, but losing to that team of Uruguay in the penalty kicks, drawed 2 apiece, and ended up 4-3 in PKs. And in fans of the Euros, you had Spain defeating England. A lot of fans in England not really happy about it, still not getting the Euro Cup. And a lot of fans, in my opinion, there's always going to be another year that you're going to win it. And look, Spain was the biggest favorites out there. There was also Germany. A lot of people out there would thought, oh, England is doing really well. And my opinion, and a lot of things came out. I have to say this was one of the best Euros that England did. But the matter of fact is, it didn't finish that they were the champs. But Spain, they had one of the best youngest players in the roster. And that showed some great rising stars and shown craziness for the next generation who's going to be in the Euros. But we'll see in the future for the Euros and the Asian and the Africans in each continent for their cups of who are the champs. And 2 more years will be the FIFA World Cup in USA, Canada, and Mexico. And that's full time of the Red Leaf Card. I'm your host, Jacob, subbing out.